morning. We'll begin tonight's meeting with the invocation and a pledge of allegiance. We have Pastor A.C. Phipps from the Evanswood Church of God. If you'll all please rise.
Would you join me in prayer? Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful time of the year. We pray for your guidance, your wisdom to be in this place. We ask that you would lead, guide, and direct the leaders of our community. We thank you for them. We ask this in your name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll call the meeting to order, December 5th, 2010, Troy City Council meeting. Could we have a roll call, Mrs. Bittner?
Mayor Daniels?
Here.
Councilmember Campbell?
Here.
Councilmember Fleming?
Here.
Councilmember Henderson?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McGinnis?
Here.
Councilmember Slater?
Here.
Councilmember Teets?
Here.
Quorum present. We begin our meeting this evening with certificates of recognition and special presentations. I have a service commendation to the middle school, the Smith Middle School Sylvan Glen Green team, if they'd like to join me at the podium. I need to find it.
I think they canceled. And it's, Mayor, they may not be here due to the overcrowding. They may not be here due to the overcrowding. Just ask if they're here. I think they're canceled.
Are the Smith Middle School children here this evening? Looks like they may have canceled as a result of the large crowd that's here this evening. We certainly will look forward to doing that next week at the next City Council meeting. There are no carryover items. There are no public...
Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, there's a submittal of the 2011 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. I'll turn it over to Mr. City Manager Zerly.
Thank you, Your Honor, members of Council. We have Interim Finance Director Tom Darling, as well as our auditing firm, the Raymond Group. Jerry Deslover is here as well to present the results of the audit for the All City Funds for the year ending June 30th, 2011.
Well, good morning. Or good morning, good evening. That's a great start, huh? Thanks for turning out. Honorable Mayor, City Council, I'm here to give the results of the 2011 financial report. The first step, though, is to recognize the award that the city received for its 2010 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. This is a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. It's issued by the Governmental Finance Officers Association, the GFOA, which is a national recognized organization. Basically, it's a certificate that's issued because they provide or mandate extra requirements in comprising your financial statements that increases transparency and in the spirit of full disclosure. There's a lot more that goes into your financial statements than is really actually required with your basic financial statements. This is the 14th consecutive year that this city has received the Certificate of Achievement in Excellence in Financial Reporting. It's out of about 1,700 municipalities and governmental units in the state of Michigan, fewer than 100 received this award. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to introduce the principal in charge of your financial audit from your independent auditing firm, Raymond Robson, Jerry Deslover. Jerry is here to go over the results of their audit report.
Thank you.
Good evening. My pleasure to be here tonight. What I'd like to do is just go through our opinions that are in the financial statements. The audit for the year ended June 30th, 2011, and I'll refer to a few page numbers if you care to follow along. On page 1, our letterhead. This is our opinion on the financial statements themselves, and it is an unqualified opinion, which means there's nothing omitted from the financial statements, and as Tom has said, this report will also be submitted to the GFOA. So it's unqualified, highest level of assurance that we can provide the city. In addition to the audit of the financial statements, the city received about $2 million in federal money, so we're required to do a A133 compliance audit. And there are two opinions in the back, and we won't read those, but on page 131, it shows you the federal money that the city received for the 12 months ended June 30th. They received $2.1 million. Most of that is highway planning and construction money. And then on page 133, there's a summary as to our results, and if there were any question costs or findings, they would be listed here. So you can see there are all no answers with respect to material weaknesses. There were none. No significant deficiencies at the financial statement level. No non-compliance. At the federal level, again, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and also no question cost. There was one compliance matter that we did note, and if you turn the page, on page 134, there was one finding, and it's labeled 2011-1, and it concerns submission of reports. With all the federal money that you do receive, you're required to submit a lot of paperwork, and those were filed a little bit late. They were filed, but they were late, so that we have to note that in this report. Other than that, there were, like I said, no question costs. So that's a good report. In addition to this statement, there was a separate letter that we issued to you, to the board directly, explaining the audit process, the assumptions that were made, and there were two other matters that we made note of with respect to recommendations. One is with respect to journal entries that are posted to the accounting system. We're suggesting that they be approved by an independent person. And secondly, cash management on highway planning and construction grant. Not all the funds were requested in a timely manner. They were requested after year end. So we're suggesting as you spend those, you request reimbursement so you can get the money back in on a more timely basis. But again, no question cost. So overall, a very good report this year. Any questions that I can answer before Tom goes through the detailed numbers for you?
Any questions, Council?
No.
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dislover. Again, real quick, I'd like to, before I go through your comprehensive annual financial report for 2011, I'd like to quickly introduce your finance staff. In the back, we have Lisa Burnham, who is your your senior accountant, along with Keith Francis, who's your interim controller. Raise your hands, wave. Very good. Also, part of your crew that's not here tonight is Anita Halprin, who's an accountant, Don Williams, an accountant, Mary Williams, an administrative aide, and Kathy Giroux, the account clerk. Again, these individuals put in significant amount of time and energy and professionalism in compiling this report. So I've done a quick, if I can show you my PowerPoint skills, quick presentation of your comprehensive annual financial report, or the CAFR, if we will. As opposed to going line by line in detail through 130 some odd pages. Let's go through the table of contents again. In your CAFR, it's really divided into 4 sections. Section Roman numeral 1 is the table of contents, and it contains the introductory section. Section 2, which starts on page 1, is the financial section. On page 101 is the statistical section, and on page 127 is your single audit section. Let's go ahead and start just briefly with the introductory section. What you'll find in there, as the name indicates, it is an introduction to the financial statement. Within inside there is a letter of transmittal from city management, which provides a brief narrative on what comprises the financial statements. It gives indication of the economic conditions and outlook for the city. It provides a narrative a brief narrative of financial information by fund, and it also includes an organizational structure and fund structure of the city. Next, the financial section. The financial section, again, starts out with the independent auditor's report. As Mr. Dislover indicated, it is what they call an unqualified or clean opinion. There's no better opinion that an independent auditor can give you on your financial statements. In addition, they noted no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in the city's internal controls. On page 3 is the management's discussion and analysis, and again, from a narrative standpoint, provides financial information at a governmental-wide perspective, a fund perspective. It also talks about capital assets and the city's long-term debt. On page 11 are your governmental-wide financial statements, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Also, from a different financial perspective, are the fund financial statements, and again, I'll get into key points of those. Also included in this section are the notes to the financial statements, which provides additional details and amounts reported that you will see inside your financial statements themselves. There's also a required supplemental information section, and really this section deals with the pension funding progress and the employer contributions for your pension plans. Finally, the financial section wraps up with combining fund financial statements for some of our non-major or smaller funds. And that's on page 73. Let's go ahead and then start with the governmental-wide financial statements. It should be noted that the focus of the governmental-wide financial statements, as indicated, is taken as the city as a whole. It includes all of the city's funds, with the exception of what we call fiduciary funds, i.e. the pension systems, because those assets are not really city assets. We are in a fiduciary capacity overlooking those assets. It uses the full accrual basis of accounting, just like any business would. What does that mean? It means it includes all of your capital assets, includes any long-term debt. Again, the focus is on the financial condition of the entity as opposed to near-term spendable resources. As we know, we can't spend buildings, we can't spend pipe in the ground. However, they are assets that will be used to provide services in the long term. Again, net assets are not spendable resources, but rather indicate long-term aspects of any short-term financing decisions. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is good news. Again, capital assets increased by about $4.1 million to about $395 million. Capital assets net of any related debt in this number is about $292 million. So of that amount, $292 million is capital assets net of any related debt. You have about $19.3 million of restricted assets. Again, those are restricted by outside parties for specific purposes. And you have about $83 million of what you call unrestricted. Again, what we're looking for, what you need to be looking for is an indication over time, over the long term, are we investing back into our city, back into our infrastructure, or are we using all of our money just for operations? So what you would see in some cities is that actually declining because even though we're providing services, it's at the cost of the condition of our roads, the condition of our buildings. So this is very good news in that the city is not just operations, but it is keeping up with the infrastructure of the city. Next, let's take a look at the fund financial statements. Again, this is on page 14, and is for basically your governmental funds. From a governmental fund perspective, the focus is on near-term inflows and outflows or spendable resources, as well as the balance of those spendable resources. It uses what we call in our vernacular the modified accrual basis of accounting. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that you won't find any capital assets in this statement. You won't find any long-term debt. The idea is near-term inflows and outflows. What do we have available, rather be categorized, and we'll talk about that in a minute, that can be appropriated to subsequent years' budgets. It should be noted that revenues are not recognized just when they're earned, as they would in a full accrual basis, but they not only have to be earned, but they also have to be available. Right? So hopefully you pay me within the next 60 days so that we can use those funds to be allocated in our organization. It is also the basis that we use for budgeting and really our financial management decisions. We budget on the modified accrual basis. We manage on the modified accrual basis of accounting for the most part. Okay? Let's go ahead and take a look then at the fund level. Oh, also I should mention that the city in 2011, this is a little bit different than prior years, but there was a new mandated governmental accounting Standards Board Statement. It's Governmental Accounting Standard Board Statement number 54, which requires us to do a couple of different things. One, it redefined the definition of fund categories. What we used to see as non-spendable fund balance, unreserved fund balance, unreserved designated fund balance, and unreserved undesignated fund balance is now split up into basically 5 different categories. You now have in your fund balance section non-spendable, and those are really resources that you can't spend, i.e. inventory, prepaids. The money has already been let. Of course, we get the benefit in the future. Any long-term receivables that we don't anticipate in collecting in the near year. Restricted net assets, which is basically assets or fund balance, if you will, that has been restricted by outside parties or enabling legislation. And I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. Committed fund balance, which is fund balance that has been committed by the entity's highest authority of lawmaking, which is the City Council. So if the City Council says we want X amount to be committed of fund balance for some future source, then it can be committed. It also takes that to uncommitted by resolution. You also have assigned fund balance, which again is the city's intent in using certain fund balance for specific things. And then the remainder is what we call unassigned fund balance. Again, it also redefined what we call a special revenue fund. And how did that affect the city? Well, the city has a budget stabilization fund. Under the old rules, that was a special revenue fund. Under the new GASB 54, it's required to be incorporated with the general fund for external financial statement presentation, i.e. your CAFR. That doesn't mean that we still maintain that fund within our accounting system for management purposes. But as far as being GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, for outside disclosure, it needs to be included with the general fund. With that being said, the amount of fund balance in the budget stabilization fund is restricted under the general fund, and in fact, it's the only thing that the city has restricted in the general fund, so it's easy at least to pick out how much of that is related to the budget stabilization fund. All right, let's go ahead and let's focus now then on the general fund, because that is the city's main operating fund. And let's take a look. We had basically your revenues and transfers in the amount of $55.6 million, which is down from what we budgeted, about $2.6 million. Again, our revenues are down about $5.4 million, or 9% from the prior year. So as you can see, we're starting to see that trend of really our property taxes and other revenue sources starting to affect our funding. Again, this is on page 18 of your financial statements if you're following along with that. Let's go ahead and see where these revenue sources are coming from. Again, property taxes are pretty much in line with budget. It's not too hard to forecast or budget property taxes. Typically, you're in the 99% accurate category when it comes to property taxes. They're not too hard to forecast. The city does a very good job in doing that. Really, the difference between budget and actual comes really in the transfers, if you see on the far right. And really what that transfer is when we develop what they call a balanced budget, sometimes we budget the use of fund balance. And this year we didn't use fund balance, and there's no such thing as transferring general fund to the general fund. And so that's what you see the difference there really from our revenue sources, is us not using fund balance for 2011. So that's good news. Next, let's go ahead and see what comprises our revenues. As you can see from the graph above, that really about 71% of the city's revenue sources comes from taxes and intergovernmental revenues. And primarily the intergovernmental is our state shared revenue. Okay. Let's talk a little bit now about expenditures. Expenditures are under budget. They totaled about $53.7 million. They're about $4.5 million under budget. They're about $4.9 million under what we've seen in the prior year. again, we can see a trend since 2008 of the city reducing expenditures every year. I think this is, again, in relation to the foreseen revenue shortfalls that we were coming to have, and really showing what management has done to face those financial situations and trying to bring us in line with what we get, spending what we earn. Again, it's primarily the reductions are related to salaries and benefits, wages and benefits, and everything that goes with that. As an example, in 2007, we had about 476 full-time employees. At the end of 2011, we had 310. A significant reduction, not only in employees, the wages associated with that, and the benefits associated with that, and the level of benefits, actually, that we're offering our new employees that are coming in. Excuse me. Let's go on next. All right, so now what are we expending our money on? Well, our primary expenditure is public safety, around $30 million. Again, as opposed to budget, it's really down about $2.3 million for what we budgeted for public safety. So again, you can see every department has worked within its budget to make the world go around. Because just because we're budgeted for as professionals and your management staff, they don't spend it just because we have it. Let's go next and see, okay, as a proportion, what do we spend our money on? Again, 56% of our expenditures are related to public safety, as we've seen before, with another 9%, or a total of 65% really, is between public safety and the condition of our streets and roads. All right, so we talked about revenues, we talked about expenditures, let's put it all together. Again, we can see in 2011 and in 2010 that we actually had expenditures underneath less than our revenues. So therefore, we had a little bit of a surplus. In 2011, we had a surplus of around $1.9 million. That's great. It means we're heading in the right direction. Again, management, as it's looking forward, is trying to reduce the cost to match what it anticipates the future cash flows to be. Should also be noted, though, here that you can see in 2007 through 2009 that we actually had expenditures in excess of revenues, or that indicates a use of fund balance. So just because we get it one year doesn't mean it doesn't get used up in the next year, and that we really need to kind of take a look over the long term. In fact, if you look here, 6 out of the last 10 years we had shortfalls. Again, revenues were $55.6 million, and expenditures were $53.7 million. Again, and I guess I'd like to point out that revenues right now for 2011, we're at about our level that we received in 2004. So if you look across, wow, about our revenues, we're at about 2004 level for revenues, and we're about 2003 levels for expenditures. All right, let's talk about fund balance. Wow, there's a graph that'll grab your eye. I might have too much on there. Again, we've got 5 categories of fund balance now between non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. Let's focus on the unassigned, right? Everybody likes the unassigned fund balance. As we can see, in total, as we spoke before, we had a surplus of $1.9 million. Unassigned fund balance went up by $1.6 million. Okay? And again, just because we have a surplus doesn't mean it all goes to unassigned. Again, as you can see, all the different categories, as they transfer between different categories, or we're committing some or assigning more, that also has an effect on unassigned fund balance. Okay? Next, again, this is a history lesson that I'm giving you, but I do want to point out of what we are looking for, at least as it stands now, for the future. Again, as we can see, the purple line is the revenue line, and the green line, or really kind of looks black from up here, is the budgeted expenditure line. Again, as we can see in 2011, the purple is above the black. That's a good thing. We've got a surplus. In 2012, however, it looks like the budget, again, we were going to look have a shortfall, right? Because the black is above purple. We also had this thing we talked about, I don't know what, in August, about employee concessions and what we're trying to do to combat that shortfall. So I tried to include that again as a blue line to kind of give an idea, wow, what is management doing to try and combat this and get us in line with our revenue streams. Again, typically revenue streams don't differ too much. They're not too hard to predict except when it comes to state shared revenue. Expenditures, on the other hand, may change when we go back through the budget process again. So again, this is a budget and a forecast based on what we know now, and certainly is subject to the budgeting process that we'll be doing in April and May. So how does this affect fund balance then? Again, the solid lines are related to budget. The lower half of these two V's here is actual dollars of fund balance. Again, we were showing the reduction from budget, and then the dotted line is what we were projecting. Again, from budget, unassigned fund balance is budgeted to drop by about $5.4 million from $12.4 in 2011 to about $7 million by 2014, or 13.9% of expenditures, which is below our 15% minimum that we like to keep. The forecast is looking, at least as this is forecasted, is about $700 million reduction in unassigned fund balance from about 12.4 to 11.7 by 2014. Again, if you look at it from a percentage, it doesn't look like we're doing too bad, right? Well, of course, keep in mind there's a lot that goes into a percentage. We have less expenditures, so that percentage can somewhat maintain itself a little higher. And again, I just want to point out, when we talk about 15% of expenditures, what do they mean? That really originated from the Governmental Finance Officers Association, i.e. your award, recommended minimum fund balances. And in there they had from 5 to 15% because, again, it depends, it's trying to encompass everybody. Okay? It should be noted, 15% is a minimum. An absolute minimum. In fact, I think the GFOA recently increase that to 16.67%, or a full 2 months, 60 days. I mean, that's what that would equate to. I think we also heard that Michigan Municipal League is even recommending some amount even higher than that. So that, just want to keep us in mind that we're looking good as a percentage of expenditures. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Capital Projects Fund, which is your second major fund. Revenues and other financing sources were, and this is on page 16, is about $10.7 million. Your expenditures and other sources or uses are about $15.5 million. Again, as we can see, we've got about 3 years of shortfalls in this Capital Project Fund. But remember when we talked about the governmental wide, and it looks like we're doing good because we're investing back in your infrastructure and maintaining, the level of the city. This is partly why, right? We're taking our capital project fund and trying to at least maintain, if not increase, the condition from a financial aspect of the city. Okay, so let's go ahead and then look at then the capital projects fund balance. It dropped about $4.8 million from 2010. Fund balance is about $12.5 million in total. It has been decreasing since 2008, and there we have it. That's where we're at, and go from there. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about your non-major governmental funds. Again, your non-major governmental funds is major streets, local streets, your community development block grants, your debt service funds, all the other smaller funds. Again, this is combined. It's back in your combining section if you want to see the individual funds, but they're combined, brought up to page 16, and you can see your non-major governmental funds there. Again, we should note that revenues and other sources were about $25.1 million. Expenditures and other uses were about $25.5. So again, we had a shortfall in 2011 by about $400,000, and we've had shortfalls since about 2008, as it looks here. So Again, special revenue funds are primarily funded by outside sources telling us how we're going to spend that money. The state's saying, you shall spend your money on local streets. You shall spend your money on major streets, and that's what these are representing. Okay? Again, as we pointed out before, governmental fund balance has been decreasing since 2008. The balance is about $6.7 million as we stand here, and again, that's about $400,000 down from the prior year. Let's talk about enterprise funds for a minute, and I've got this in the Christmas spirit. Enterprise funds are just like what we talked about at the governmental-wide level. They use the full accrual basis of accounting. They don't show you fund balance, they show you net assets, which again, pipe in the ground for our sanitary sewer and our water system. It's including all of those types of assets. Should be noted the changes in net assets. The water fund had revenue and other sources of around $14.4 million. Expenditures about $12.4 million. Again, this sketch was on page 20. For about a $2 million increase in net assets. Sewer had about $12.3 million in revenues, $10.9 in expenditures for a $1.4 million increase. Sanctuary Lake had about $941,000 in revenues, about $1.5 million in expenditures, so it's had a decrease in net assets about $600,000. It should be noted, though, that as you can see from the purple, that this is not the first year that it's had a loss, but this should be noted. The losses are getting less and less every year. So there is, and again, keep in mind, it's trying to pay off property, principal and interest on the money they borrowed to get that. So it's not just operations. In fact, operations may have a positive cash flow. So again, we see this going into the future. I would expect better results. Finally, enterprise fund net assets. Again, the water fund had about $97 million in net assets. Of that, $77 million is our capital assets, not a related debt. The sewer had about $64 million in net assets. Of that, $36 million is capital assets. Sanctuary Lake actually has a net deficit of about $4.6 million and actually has about $300,000 of depreciated assets, and that less than the debt that's owed on them. And finally, your non-major enterprise funds have about $6.6 million in net assets. Of that, $4.1 million is involved in capital assets. All right, finally, just real quick, we are going to submit the 2011 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for your Certificate of Achievement and Excellence in Financial Reporting, hopefully for the 15th consecutive year. And I look forward, and I have no doubts that you will achieve that. One final thing is the statistical section. Again, that starts on page 101. That's some great reading. Again, it's got some financial trends. It's got some demographic information and some continuing disclosures that I know you'll find very informative. Who asked the first question?
I have a question. Well, I know the answer, but can you just let the audience know where this information is going to be available to them so that they can access it?
I believe we'll be putting this on the city's website.
Yes.
That's correct, it will be.
In addition, we will be compiling what they call the popular annual financial report. It's about that big, about that wide, about that thin, that my understanding will be available at City Hall if you don't want the Big Brother version. And I think they'll be putting that in the paper, too. So.
Very good. Very nicely done. Thank you. Is there any other questions? Councilman Slater?
I don't know if you can answer this. The employee concessions, the early retirement ERIP program, that's a big part of why we have excess fund balance. Is that correct?
I don't know if there's such thing as excess fund balance from being the financial guy.
If we didn't have the concessions or the ERIP program.
Yeah, again, from wages and salaries, and again, it's around $5.4 million compared to last year in budget. So that explains a lot. That's what's keeping us from having this, or did at least in 2011, in my opinion, the major point of not having a shortfall for 2011.
That's the point that I was trying to get to. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Fleming.
Just wanted to say excellent job, very informative. I love your excitement.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
With all the sometimes bad news we have in Troy, I think the things we've done, as Councilman Slater said, we're going in the right direction. We've taken the necessary steps as management team to take the concessions and so forth, to put us in really good shape, I think, compared to many Michigan cities. I'm not auditing other cities, but from what I can tell, comparatively speaking, we're in pretty good shape here, and we want to keep it that way. So this is a good starting point for our next year's budget discussions.
Absolutely. I've seen a lot of governmental entities, and I'm sure Mr. Dislover has seen many more. And again, that's part of our excitement. We're glad to see what you have done, again, in light of these financial realities. Make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, there's no carryover items, there's no public hearings, so we'll move to public comments. I'd like to take a moment, if my counsel will allow me, to make a short statement. Do I have any objections? I simply want to say that I regret what I said. I should not have used such language. While I do believe that marriage is between one man and one woman, it was inappropriate to use the language in describing a group of people. That's all I want to say. I ask God for forgiveness, and I would ask for your forgiveness as well. And there's a number of people on the agenda that signed up to speak this evening, so I need to ask my counsel if they want to suspend the rule number 16 for the shortening of time for the public to speak. Is there a motion? Okay, so we'll stay with the 5 minutes, which is my preference as well. I'm going to call up the first 5 people. It is. I'm going to call up the first 5 people. If you'll please stand in a line. Linda Klima, Andre Touchette, Daniel Fair, Ellen Keat, and Richard Peters.
Good evening, Ms. Daniels.
Good evening.
Council. CNN, Best Places to Live, 2006, 8, and 10. City of Troy ranked #1 safest city in the state of Michigan. 2003, Troy was named Michigan's Sports Town by Sports Illustrated magazine for having the top community sports programs in the state. Troy has become a business and shopping destination in the Metro Detroit area with the upscale Somerset Collection. These were headlines from the past. Unfortunately, today's headlines tell a different story. Troy mayor on defensive over gay slur. Troy mayor's Facebook slam on gay marriage draws widespread criticism. Michigan mayor doesn't like New York anymore because queers can't get married there. These headlines have done serious damage to our fine city and its economic recovery. 2 comments from Facebook. My 11 friends and I often take a Friday night and meet up in Troy for dinner and do some shopping. We won't spend another dime in Troy as long as Ms. Daniels is in office. Money speaks louder. Money speaks louder than a bigot any day.
We'll have to have order. We'll have to have order, please. I would expect order in the chambers, please.
I spend about $2,500 a year on hotel bills in Troy. I don't want to stay in a city that's led by people who want to deny me my civil rights. One of your friends is part of the Michigan Faith and Freedom Coalition, and its press release blamed homosexual groups and left-wing organizations for the boycott of Troy businesses. The press release does nothing but confirm the prejudice that was spouted. My response to the press release was deleted, and I wasn't surprised. But I said, you're focusing on homosexual groups and left-wing organizations targeting Troy, when in fact it's a vast mixture of people from all walks of life who are threatening to boycott Troy because of this. The bottom line is the mayor brought this upon our city. She's the one that spouted the bigoted comment. It's her agenda that's to blame and no other. Ms. Daniels, you said you think differently than the 80,000 residents of this city. Thank God for that. This is not representative of our city. You started destroying the city with changing the oath, omitting the charter, omitting So Help Me God to your latest proposal to change the rules and procedures of City Council. You indicated, I want to restore the proper configuration of government in my little community in my own little way. end quote. Is that your way of getting more power? You also want to do further damage to the future of our city by killing the Troy Transit Center. David Wiz, your friend against the Transit Center, said that since 1945 the use of mass transit's declined. He also made other inaccurate statements. In my research, I came across the American Public Transportation Association website. 2011 fact sheet shows since 1995 transit's experienced sustained growth in ridership. Ridership levels from 2006 through 09 are the highest since 1956. Public transportation ridership grew 34% from 95 through 2009, substantially more than the growth for vehicle miles of travel on our streets and highways, which was 23%. The number and percentage of commuters using transit as their primary means of transportation to work has increased. The most common purpose is to go to and from work, second, to go to and from school, and the third is shopping or dining. Safety. The FTA data shows that transit is among the safest way to travel. You indicated earlier today that you've paid for your mistake. What about the citizens and businesses who continue to pay? I'd like to quote something you once said, quote, when our political players resort to using bad card tricks to win in politics just because they can, we end up with bad policies and a losing hand every time, end quote. Well, Ms. Daniels, it looks like Troy drew the losing hand this time. The saying, know when to hold 'em and know when to fold 'em, says it all. This hand needs to be folded. Do what's best for Troy. Please resign.
Thank you one and all for your spirited participation. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Daniels and City Council. My name is Audrey Touche, and I've lived in Troy for 20 years. I've never spoken at a City Council meeting, and frankly, I never wanted to. But your recent Facebook posting, Mayor Daniels, hit me like a ton of bricks. You see, for me, this is personal. My 22-year-old son is gay. He is a proud graduate of Troy Public Schools and is currently pursuing his master's degree at Central Michigan University. I'm also a board member of PFLAG Detroit, which meets right here in the city of Troy at a Lutheran church. PFLAG stands for Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. We work to promote the health and well-being of LGBT people, their families, and allies through support, education, and advocacy. We meet with kids in the youth group and let them know that things will get better. We meet with broken-hearted new parents whose children have been targeted with slurs such as fag, homo, and queer, and tell them the atmosphere in our schools and community is changing. But sadly, it isn't, is it? I hope these slurs that I struggled to say out loud made you feel uncomfortable. I hope they made you squirm. Perhaps it's easier to write these words than it is to say or hear them, but the effect is the same. They are hateful, ignorant words. To choose those words to describe a group of people speak to your character and moral fiber. They can't be taken back nor minimized. The next time you think it's funny or silly to use a gay slur, think of how these words make my son feel, or his partner, or the students at Troy High in the new GSA, or parents, like myself. They hurt. Mayor Daniels, you do not represent me or my family, and in my opinion, someone who holds values such as yours has no place leading a city as diverse as Troy. Thank you.
Voluntary compliance, please. Let everyone have an opportunity to speak. Please, if you'll keep the clapping down, you'll allow everyone to have an opportunity to speak. Please listen.
Hello, my name is Dr. Ellen Louise Kite. Like most U.S. citizens, I don't fit into one homogeneous category or group. I'm a taxpayer, I'm a licensed psychologist, I'm a musician, and I'm a lesbian. My partner Deb and I have been together almost 9 years, and we plan to get married this month in New York. So you can give me that bag. I was in the middle of this lovely, excited euphoria when I first read Janice Daniels' statement, "I think I'm going to throw away my I Love New York bag now that queers can get married there." This comment made by Janice Daniels was not a lighthearted or harmless joke. It was a derogatory reference to gay people and their partnerships. It was hateful speech, exactly the type of speech that erodes the dignity and civil rights of minority groups within our culture and maintains the oppression that those of us here are fighting to lift. When initially confronted with her statement, Janice Daniels attempted to at first dismiss it, to pass it off as a free speech issue and as a personal and supposedly moral viewpoint that was somehow not hateful. Free speech is simply stating a viewpoint. Hateful speech is creating an entitled us and a derided them, and hateful speech does not have to be an angry yell. In fact, hateful speech most often takes the form of exactly this type of microaggression, the seemingly little offhanded remarks and insults that remind everyone which categories they are in, the entitled or the other, the us or the them. There is a nationwide campaign right now called Think Before You Speak, Don't Say That's So Gay. Janice Daniels and others like her would do well to listen a bit to their public service announcements, listen to the YouTube videos available in the It Gets Better campaign, to know some of the people here in your community that are not like you. The microaggressions and dismissive attitudes like those of Janice Daniels are cumulative. Like tiny fractures, they can shatter a minority group's sense of safety, a person's sense of self-esteem, a person's sense of belonging. Janice Daniels' use of hateful speech is exactly the type of microaggression that encourages bullies, leads to violence, and contributes to suicide. I think I'm going to throw away my I Love New York bag now that queers can get married there. I don't expect straight people to automatically understand or agree with my perspective, or to be able to grasp the long struggle my partner and I have had to get to the point where we can get married. Not in our home state yet, but at least in our own country. However, I do expect that basic principles of respect, including respectful disagreement, can be followed by all, and most especially followed by our elected leaders. When basic respect, basic acknowledgement of one's equal human status is not present, well, that's a slippery slope, and I don't think anyone really wants to be on it. In her attempt at an apology today, Janice Daniels added that, "I hope it pretty much goes away." Well, it doesn't just go away. Something you are not dealing with does not just go away.
Ellen, your 5 minutes is up. If you'll wrap it up, please.
In closing, I ask the council members to take corrective action immediately so that the members of this community can be treated with equal respect and regard, and so that the city of Troy can begin to regain the respect of the larger communities of Michigan and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
My name is Dan Fair. I've been a resident of the city of Troy over 30 years. I've only been here 3 times. And once again, apparently my timing's off, because I didn't come here tonight to discuss what I think most of the people came here tonight to talk about. Not to make light of that, but there's some other business I'd like to talk about here tonight. I have a series of questions, and it's for each member of this council. My first question is, are there any limits to public comments other than 5 minutes? I understand the issue of free speech. However, libel comments, and let me explain this. Several weeks ago during public comment, a citizen questioned the integrity of a councilman's former honorable and distinguished career within the city of Troy. I won't mention his name. Later in the meeting, during the council comments, the attacked councilman encouraged the citizen to speak to him face to face at any time. I thought that council member handled that very appropriately. However, last week, a citizen came in and did the same thing to another former council member who just happened to have been a former mayor from years back. Unfortunately, that council member did not have an opportunity to defend herself amongst what I refer to as vicious attacks. So again, my question is, are there any limits to public comments other than the 5 minutes? Should the rules of procedure of the city of Troy be revised? I don't know. Perhaps one of you could address that later this evening. Question number 2. I assume this would be to management. This refers to posting the wages online of city employees. I'm a little concerned. I think you're doing a great job of that. But the portion that I'm concerned about is they're using Medicare wages versus actual cost of wages to the city. And I'm speaking about 401k contributions. When I was still working, I'm a retired General Motors engineer, by the way, I deferred the maximum amount by the IRS, which was $13,600 during my career. Because I was over the age of 55, I contributed the $5,000 catch-up. That totaled $18,500 of my earnings that did not show up as Medicare earnings. Now, in honesty to the management of Troy, the school board does the same thing on their website, and we're trying to mirror, I believe, what they're doing. You're doing it the same way, and I commend you for that. However, I think it's inaccurate, and I think it's a little dishonest, because what should be reflected is what are the costs of those employees to the city. What they're taking home is not my concern. It's none of my business. I think this website's trying to show what does it cost the city. And by doing so, showing those Medicare wages, I think, is inaccurate. I'd like that to be addressed. That's a question, by the way. My next question is to Councilman Slater. And I'm asking you this question because of your years' experience in Troy PD. You might be best suited to answer this question. These wages that are being posted online, specifically, how does that affect what's happening within the Troy Police Department? And the reason why I ask this is, does it reflect the level of training and education of our officers? You may have several sergeants, several lieutenants. I don't know how many are on staff. You may have one sergeant with a master's degree, one maybe with not. Does it reflect that? The Board of Education shows on their website that 74% of the teachers hold an advanced level degree. I commend all of our teachers for that. I assume some of our officers are highly trained as well, and I'd like to see that on there somehow. I don't know how to best address that, but I'm asking you to look into that, if you'd be so kind as to do that. Because I'd like to see an honest comparison. If that's where we're going with this, again, just because an officer's riding in a patrol car, we have a sergeant, these aren't hourly workers that we're talking about. When I used to walk into an assembly plant at General Motors, they would have hourly wages posted. A welder makes this, an assembly worker makes that, and it's all out in the open. But when you're talking about positions like this that are skilled and dedicated individuals that have excessive training and education, I would assume, in our department, again, it should be reflected on there. Next question to management. Can you explain why several weeks ago Council stated that no general funds have been used to date for the transit center, and yet the Troy Times last week reported that over $400,000 had been spent? I'm confused. Could you address that, please, later in the meeting? Which one's accurate?
Mr. Fair, your 5 minutes is up. If you could wrap it up, please.
My final question is to Ms. Daniels, or to Council. Has the Council questioned or requested a breakdown sheet for the $30,000 a year fee that it's going to take to manage the transit center? Again, my opinion's neutral in this. I'd like to see facts. And with my years of experience and my education, I have come up with a conclusion that far exceeds $30,000 a year, and I'd like management to address that, number one. And number two, has this Council seen an actual breakdown sheet of how they arrived at that $30,000? Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Peters?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, folks. It's Troy. I just want to say, well, personally, I'm not gay. I believe the courts have ruled on this issue, and we've had gays serve in our war, all our wars that I know of. I want to talk about the transit center for a minute. I believe the reasons that we need rail to connect the suburbs to the city is that they're threefold: environmental, sociological, and economical. First, environmental. When you consider the impact of the atmosphere, glacial melting, skin cancer, drought, environmental habitat, fauna and flora, water preservation, I believe the cost is staggering, not to mention hurricanes, typhoons, etc. Sociological. When you open this city up to positive change, not only does it work domestically, but globally as well. It also opens up our city to invention and innovation. Economically, when I hear 11 cents a mile, it reminds me of that Statue of Liberty sale that you hear about. When you consider gasoline, its subsidies, military, environmental cleanup, to name a few, Puget Sound, Lake Erie, Gulf of Mexico, et cetera, and when you consider the fact that CSX allegedly goes for 450 miles per gallon as opposed to 20 miles per gallon, not to mention the smog and the slow, rush hour times that we've alluded to before, I think it's pretty obvious that this is a positive development for our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. I'm going to call up the next 10 people. If you'll stand in line and then come forward when your time is available. Joe Gross, Joe Thielman, Andre Touche again is on the agenda. Well, Andre, you've had an opportunity to speak. Zach Kilgore, Curtis Skye, Sabrina Lee, Bridget Dennis. Let's see. Amanda Breitner, Cheryl Webster Miller, and Jeff Williams, please.
Hi there. I've lived in Troy for 41 years, and I've never seen the streets as bad as they are. I take John R. from Long Lake to Big Beaver. Now, I see you guys are verbally congratulating yourself. You got $1.5 million surplus. Are you also congratulating yourself for the holes in the streets? Now, my sub, Windmill Point South, has just got a bunch of sidewalk repaired and replaced, but not the streets. They're going to be tarred, and the minute we get bad weather, it's going to be back again. That's one point. The other point is, to the best of my knowledge, for the last 4 or 5 years, they've been goofing around with this train station. Now, if any of you have ever seen that, it's a bus stop. It's not a train station. We stood there, my wife and I, in the weather going to Chicago. It's beautiful, but it's still a bus stop. Where are they coming? What are they doing? The last I heard, they were going to move it from the Birmingham side to the Troy side. If we're spending $400,000, we're wasting our money. That's what I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gross.
I am here to address the recent comments by Mayor Daniels. I'm a 34-year resident of Troy. I worked with juvenile delinquents for 25 years. I was a teacher for 4 years, and I was a school social worker at a local district for 14 years. About 35 years ago, when I was supervising a couple of group homes in inner city Detroit, I got a phone call telling me to come to a group home because a kid had committed suicide. He was 14 years old. I will never forget that day. Going to that group home and seeing that young man lying on the floor, and later on reading the suicide note that he wrote. In that note, he wrote, "I'm sick and tired of being teased because I'm gay. Kids call me gay, faggot, and queer." That young man, 34 years ago, never reached the age of 15 because of the intense bullying that he received. I went to the school, I talked to my staff that I supervised. All of them said, I heard it, I thought maybe he was being teased. I didn't think he took it that seriously. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Every person said that. I did not think it was that big of a deal. I had no idea it meant that much to him. You need to watch what you say. What you have done, in my opinion, is you have now given students in our schools, and I'm going to talk about schools and students, and I'll let the rest of the people here, I know a lot of people want to talk about gay marriage and your discriminatory feelings about that. I'll let them deal with that. What I want to address to you, Mayor Daniels, is what you have done to our school system here in Troy, where my son and my daughter went to school. You have now given a license to kids in those schools where I worked very hard in the schools that I worked with. I worked with kids every single day to give them a sense of compassion and understanding and acceptance of every person. What you have now done by saying the word that I will give up my handbag because queers are allowed to be married in New York. You have now given those students in that school license to say the same thing. You have given kids today, I wonder how many kids today in our schools in Troy use the word queer when they were talking to some kid that they thought that he may be perceived gay or was in fact gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender. When you said that you apologized and said you used words that you shouldn't have used, that maybe I should have used different words, a bad choice of words, I think is the exact quote. It was more than a bad choice of words. The words you used were harmful, they were hurtful, they were dangerous. They promote hate and they promote intolerance. The kids I used to work with, I told, when you want to help others, because I asked those kids to help other kids. I asked heterosexual kids, all kinds of groups of kids to help the gay kids get along in school. And I told them it took two things to help. It takes guts and intelligence. I assume you feel you have the intelligence to do something, Mayor. I will see shortly whether you have the guts to do it. The recent bullying law that was just passed in Michigan, finally, after many, many years of many people trying to get that law passed, has now, in what you have done, if you have lessened the effect of that bullying law in our schools, in the schools where my kids went from kindergarten through high school. I don't appreciate that. In the 6 o'clock news, you said, apparently, I don't need to answer questions about gay and lesbians. I'm the mayor. I don't need to answer those questions. You missed an opportunity right there. What you need to do is come out. You said, that's what I heard you said. Now, I have a family. I've been married for over 30 years. I have a son and a daughter. I think it's not just the people that are in the gay community that need to be that should be upset with you. I think everybody here, all of you, should be upset.
Let's have order in the court.
And here's why. Everybody should be upset, even members of the council, because as I don't care whether you're gay, straight, whatever it is, you need to all have compassion for other people. As a social worker, I taught that, tried to teach that to get it across to people. When you slander and slur somebody, as you have done, you are not showing compassion and concern for other people. Heterosexual, gay, it doesn't matter. What you have now is two choices. You can either ignore the question. You can pander to the people that say, free speech, free speech. You can go that route, and you can minimize it. You can minimize this. Or you can do the second thing. You can come out strong that you made a mistake. You regret what you did. You need to do something about it. You need to go to the schools.
Excuse me, sir, your 5 minutes is up.
Okay, I'm going to finish. And I will be willing to help you if you want to go to the schools and help you do that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to introduce myself the way that people in the Gay Straight Alliance at Troy High introduce themselves. I'm Zach. I am in 12th grade. I'm straight, and my preferred gender pronouns are he, him, and his. Now, I'm just going to address a comment that we spoke earlier, Mayor, and you said that what you used was just a word, and the only thing I can really say is that all of these people that are standing up here with the signs, they all disagree with you. They think that it's a very hurtful word. It's not just a word, it's a very hurtful word, and they feel very offended. And we don't think you understand that. We don't think you understand the magnitude of what you said. And I think that there are a few ways that you could reconcile this. One would be maybe to give a large donation to a charity that helps people that have suffered from discrimination. Another way would be to attend one of the Gay Straight Alliance meetings, to work with the group, to talk to them, to get to know some of them. And I think the third thing you could do that would help the most is to resign.
Thank you very much.
everyone.
You are, excuse me, you have to address the council.
Just to address everyone, including the council, I'd just like to say that this entire thing started with an offhand incendiary comment, and it'd kill me to see this protest that we've worked so hard for be killed by our protesters making similar ugly comments, so just please watch your language, everyone. Anyways, hello, everyone. My name is Sky Curtis. I'm in 12th grade. My preferred gender pronouns are she, her, hers, and frankly, I don't think that my orientation matters because this isn't an issue about sexuality. This goes beyond being lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender because, ladies and gentlemen, this is about being human. Personally, the part of this entire ordeal that is the most morally repugnant to me is the lack of thought that Mayor Daniels put into this. She's mentioned several times that she didn't mean to offend anyone, but that's the thing. Even without intending to hurt anyone, Daniels' casual use of an outdated slur has had the gravest possible impact on the most innocent members of her constituency, Troy's youth. We're too young to vote, but we're not too young to be impacted by your words. As the co-founder of Troy High's Gay Straight Alliance, I work in very close contact with LGBTQA youth. One of the biggest struggles these kids faced is fighting against the scariest enemy of all, themselves. Roughly 90% of LGBTQA youth are already bullied for their gender identity expression. This only compounds the problem of low self-esteem and self-image in LGBTQ youth. Many of our students already struggle with suicidal thoughts and feelings, and when someone who they should be able to look up to as an authority figure, say a mayor, makes a slur against their orientation, that hurts. It really, really hurts. The fact that that slur was tossed off so casually even makes it more distressing and makes our students, your kids, feel like their orientation is something dirty, something that should be ashamed of, and something they should hide. Every teen tries to some extent to alter themselves to fit into the status quo, but this is especially a problem in the LGBTQ community. This is a group of students who already face so many profound struggles in their daily life, and with all due respect, Mayor, I don't think that you should be one of those struggles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to introduce myself as Sabrina Lee. I'm a student at Troy High School. I'm in the 11th grade. My preferred gender pronouns are she, her, and hers. Last year, I moved here to Troy from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The most prominent and admirable thing I immediately noticed about this great city is its diversity. I came from a place where it's not uncommon to see people getting hurt based on who they love. And then I came to Troy, where I could be openly gay in my school without getting bullied for it. I co-founded a Gay Straight Alliance in my school, which is a group devoted to promoting diversity, equality, and above all, acceptance. Through this club, we learn in an all-inclusive environment that you are no less than anybody else. Merriam-Webster defines a leader as a person who leads, a guide, a conductor. But the path in which you have guided us is one of unrest and insecurity and even shame. I'm disappointed that all around the nation, Troy is being misrepresented as a city of ignorance and hostile bigotry. But we are better than that. We stand for much more than that. I believe in equality, and I, among others, do not feel safe when the head of our municipal government does not share the same view. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but when one hinders or targets a specific community in the process, it is unacceptable for me to stand by and let it pass. It is unacceptable for me to pretend it's okay. Since you do not believe in equality, I feel more alienated than ever in my city. If you do not believe in equality for all, you do not believe in equality at all, and I do not and will not stand with you.
My name is Bridget Dennis. I'm a current Troy resident, and I grew up in Troy. I went to Leonard, Smith, graduated from Troy High, and I currently attend Oakland University. I live with my parents, and I commute to school, and I've always been really happy with that decision that I made. It's largely because of the tolerance that I learned growing up in Troy. Living here, I was exposed to so many races, ideologies, and sexualities. And my friends and I, including Ms. Touche's son, with whom I've been friends with since we were in preschool, always felt safe to express who we were because we assumed that our educators, friends, families, city officials accepted all walks of life. Current students of the Troy School District no longer can make that assumption. And if they can't rely on those who are in power to tolerate, then who are they going to learn it from? Mayor Daniels, your words cut to the bone, and I'm afraid a simple apology isn't going to suffice. It's up to the older generations to teach the newer generations equality, and if you're not up to the task, I suggest you find a different job. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Breitner. I'm a resident of Troy. My family and I moved to Troy because of its excellent school district when I was 12. And I attend Oakland University and I commute. I would like to talk today about responsible internet behavior. When I was 11 and my family had the internet and I was able to use it independently, my parents and I had a dialogue about what is appropriate to put online and what isn't. Even now, as a 21-year-old college student, I am fully aware that the posts that I post right now on Facebook affect my future prospects, and I don't plan on going into any official career. I find it extremely disturbing that a public official who represents me lacks the common sense to understand the power of words and the consequences they incur. Not only do I find Janice Daniels' comments hurtful, degrading, and thoughtless, but her actions show her lack of foresight. So yes, I disagree with Mayor Daniels' views on human rights, but I'm also concerned on how effective a leader she is capable of being given her poor decision-making in posting such a comment in such a public way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Cheryl Webster Miller. I moved to Troy with my husband 22 years ago because we felt that it was a strong community, it was diverse, it was accepting, it was tolerant, it was had fabulous schools, and it's where we wanted to raise our children. I've never ever been here before. I've never written all of you letters before. I did this weekend following your comments. You embarrassed me. You embarrassed me. Across the country, Huffington Post, my God, everywhere. People across the country are calling me saying, Cheryl, what the heck are you doing in your city? It's just embarrassing, and I think an apology is not enough. I raised 3 children here. Two of them are now moved on to Michigan State, and one is still in Troy High, having to suffer through all of this craziness. My kids have been subject to hurtful words in school. When my son was in middle school, Mr. Redpath instituted a policy where when someone was bullied on the bus, they turned the bus around and brought it back to Smith. And he was on one of those buses, and he heard Mr. Redpath's, come to Jesus conversation, which if anyone knows him knows that he can do that. My other son was part of a situation with a school blog and put some words on there that were hurtful. And he had to go to Saturday school. An apology wasn't enough. And what I'm here to say is that an apology isn't enough in middle school or in high school or in elementary school, and it's not enough now. You've embarrassed us, you've hurt our children, you've hurt other people in our community, and I want to know where your Saturday school is and where your bus is turning around to. Thank you.
Jeff, if you'll wait a moment, Jeff, if you'll wait a moment, let me call more people up. Just a moment, please.
Sure.
I would like Adam Taylor, Robert Nelson, Brian Madico, John Fry, Joseph Hanner, Cynthia Wilshire, Eileen Tokarski, Kendall Wojcicki. If you'll please stand in line. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, my name is Jeff Williams, and I've been a resident of Troy for 26 years. And before I start, I just would like to point out about just the number of speakers that have come before me indicate what a diverse community we live in. And we want to keep that in mind through the rest of my speech. I've never spoken like many others before the Troy City Council, but after the recent incident involving Mayor Daniels, I felt compelled to do so tonight. I'm here because I'm angry, like many others, that Mayor Daniels have shown no true remorse with her hateful comments as posted on Facebook. First, Mayor, you refused to apologize when this story broke. Then only after public outrage did you offer a delayed apology that's nothing more than damage control. You've attempted to justify your Facebook comments under the First Amendment rights, but unfortunately, Mayor, this issue is so much more than a story about First Amendment rights. Clearly, Madam Mayor, you're either naive or you do not want to see the big picture. Even though you did provide somewhat of an apology, that's simply not enough. The action by this mayor goes far beyond thinking that an apology would be enough to allow her to simply brush those hateful comments aside and move on like nothing happened. Not in this case, Madam Mayor. Everyone is responsible for their own actions. You are responsible for yours and no one else. And do not blame others, especially those who called you out for those comments. As a result of your actions, there should be severe consequences for those extreme remarks that you made publicly. I ask you, how can any citizen of Troy ever look at this mayor the same way? I know I can't. You don't represent my values, and unfortunately I'm ashamed to have you represent the city. Beside the fact that now we all know your strong feelings regarding the gay community, lost is the fact that you've shown such an incredible lack of judgment by posting those hateful comments on such a huge social network as Facebook. Is this the kind of judgment we expect of someone who's been given the privilege to be mayor of our great city? Madam Mayor, you've said that you want to do what's right for Troy. If you truly believe that, then please do the right thing and submit your resignation as mayor immediately. Thank you.
Good?
Thank you.
My name's Adam, and I'm actually someone who's actually looking at possibly next year moving into the city of Troy. Until last week, the same day I was looking at apartments, I received the wonderful statements in which came out. My first time in New York, I started my first statement there at a podium with, "I'm glad I felt it's suicide because my life today is so amazing." This statement was given on national news after giving an interview with MTV Studios for my work in Michigan when working with LGBT youth crisis prevention programs, and relaying my own story of, at 17, having attempted suicide as an LGBT youth. Today, I do not stand as the same person as I did at that point. For my second time to New York was this July, when I did attend and watch the mayor of Albany swear in and participate in the first legalized same-sex marriages in the New York City Hall of Albany at midnight, at my first wedding, second wedding, third wedding, fourth wedding, and fifth wedding, and I happily kept my bags from it. The next day I was in Niagara Falls, and yet again another mayor spoke at the ceremony at the first same-sex group marriages in Niagara Falls about how this diversity brings fairness and opportunities that unite a community as a whole. And I really wonder how we are uniting a community when Michigan is in this economic turn time. As I am a young businessman, a college graduate, a gay man, what would I want to do moving into a city that's led by an administrator that is publicly attacking my own community in which I am, and why I would want to live there, conduct business, and operate my life there in future plans. I also want to know how we are benefiting youth. As has been mentioned by cyberbullying, our bill, which I sat in the gallery last Tuesday in the Michigan Senate, does not include cyberbullying off of school campus. We saw last year the turmoil of wearing purple and purple candles because of the number of suicides. We saw examples of university students because of attacks online. We saw a school board member who came out and attacked gay students. I would say that this would have served as a warning that this is not maybe a best method approach to make such public statements. And yes, you do have the freedom to speech, but when you have such a position, as today as I've gotten hundreds of phone calls over the years, gotten a youth who contacted me who lives in the area of Southeast Michigan and was afraid that he wanted to end his life and didn't know what to do anymore, and a friend gave him my contact information. He said between seeing the words of faggot and being attacked not only at school, but also online, and what is perceived in the media, he did not know if he could ever come out and actually keep a family. It makes me think of my own time at age 17 when I faced the same exact situation. I asked that if you want to have freedom of speech, your next freedom of speech words be that you resign as mayor and let Troy, Michigan move forward as a community together versus a community that you want to divide. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Robert Nelson.
You could lift the microphone up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Robert M. Nelson. I've been a Troy resident my entire life. I went to Troy schools, and I actually manage a business in Troy. And sorry if my voice is a little hoarse. I was standing outside in the rain and snow for a few hours today. But I'm going to keep this short. I'm just asking, in the light of the negative consequences to the businesses and characters of the city of Troy, is there a way the council is willing to pass a resolution condemning the speech of the mayor? I really hope they do, because there's a lot of young kids here today who came from Troy High School, the same school I graduated from, and I hope they stay in Troy and they have businesses in Troy and raise families in Troy. And if this is the feeling that they get now as teenagers, they're going to move like everyone else. I got over 20 calls from my friends who moved out of state, out of the country to get away from things like this in Michigan and in Troy. And the council and you are the face of Troy, so I'm really hoping that they will do some sort of resolution and people will stay in Troy because it's a great city.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brian Matiko. I don't really know what else to say from what everyone else has been saying. We have a lot of great people here. This is one of the reasons that I moved to Troy, Michigan. I've been here for 3 years now, and it's because of the people out here that I actually feel comfortable in my own skin to be able to live in this area. What I don't have trust in is you. I have to question myself, and I have to question what is exactly what you're going to represent. Are you representing the entire community, or are you going to pick and choose who you are actually going to represent? Your statements are very hurtful. I understand that you're trying to apologize for it. I agree. An apology is not enough in this matter. Yeah, you are an elected official. We're supposed to be able to believe in you and to trust in you. I can't do that. And it hurts me to actually be up here and think all of the kids that are suffering, all the other people that actually have to suffer for this, the businesses that are going to, there's a lot of repercussions to this. It's a domino effect. And I just want you to ask yourself, do you think that what you've done was good in your heart and in the core being of yourself? Is this what God is saying for you to do? And in the matter of an emergency situation such as 9/11, were people asking, wait a second, I'm not going to help you because you're gay. You know, you don't deserve to be helped because you're a Muslim. You don't deserve to be helped because you're a woman. I mean, those are the things that I have to actually wrestle with all the time. And I try to teach change as progression. Change is inevitable. Change is the best thing that we have in our lives. And it's always going to be there. But we're not progressing. We can't progress when we go backwards like this. And I don't know that we're actually moving any further with statements like that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Fry. I'm a resident of Troy. And I'd first like to thank you, Mayor, for publicly apologizing. I'm questioning whether it was sincere or not because I heard the comments this afternoon, and your comments were that it was just a word and that you're not a bully and that you're a nice person. I don't know that much about you. Unfortunately, this is pretty much the first exposure that I have to you. All right. I'm encouraged by the number of young people here today. It's been 30 plus years since I've been in high school, and the word queer was frequently used. Mayor Daniels, it's no longer acceptable. You can't use that without consequences, and I think you know that. Shame on you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Before I begin, I want to thank every one of you for giving me the opportunity to speak. The main reason I came here, I'm going to be short and to the point, is because I want you to know that what you said not only affected Troy, but the whole world and the United States. I'm from Roseville. I can't vote against you. There's nothing I can do about what you've said except urge these people to never vote for you or give you their respect again. The only thing you can do today is resign. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Cynthia Wilshire, and I've lived in Troy more than 55 years. And I have never been so ashamed and embarrassed and angry as I was Saturday morning when I got up in the morning to turn on the news, to not hear it on one station, but all 3 Detroit stations, what you said. Shame on you. Shame on you. And to all you council people, you are to represent all of us with your best behavior. This was not good behavior. Your personal opinions should not be the basis of your decisions. You are behaving like